Hello, yes, I am live on the live stream of consciousness. Here we are on a new platform. So that might have seemed a little bit different than normal just because of the way they have me running the intro. But I still get to run the intro, which is really cool. Have you risen up and joined in? Are you raising the vibration? I gotta rework that. It's like only a month old, but I feel like I gotta keep it fresh. Maybe I'll come up with a new one. That was a lot of fun to do. But it is Thursday, March 20th. Another name and number that we've given to this random moment in time and space so that we could all be here and make sure that we're here. I am trying to figure out this new platform. So I have chat up here. I see Helen Wagner out in the chat room. Oh, look at that. The way the chat comes up is a little bit different. I think what I can do, which is kind of interesting, is I can put the chat up as an overlay over here. So if anybody chats, I think it'll show up over here. So I don't know if that's Helen's chat up at the top under my overlay, but we'll take it as it comes, right? We've got this new platform happening. We're just trying to figure it all out. And that's the deal. So welcome Helen Wagner and anybody who's out there. The live stream of consciousness is an intentional moment to gather and have a conversation and think about consciousness and things that maybe we don't think about on the hamster wheel of our day to day. So it's a chance to get off the hamster wheel for a minute and meet somebody cool and do some cool stuff. I see +3. I'm not sure what this is. 3 things, I think, because I have a screen share set up. So if you're out there live, do me a favor because this is a new platform. Type in the comments #live. If you're watching the replay, if it's not March 20th, Thursday, type #replay. This way I know that you stop by later and it also still gets to tickle the algorithm a little bit. I don't usually open up the windows and Facebook and YouTube and check out the broadcast because it's just too much to do. So I'm here doing this. Hopefully you're out there watching. I don't know if I know Tim and Ninja Kitty who are usually out there. I don't see them in the comments. So if you guys are out there, I hope you are. And it's just not getting used to this platform. I think I'm going to return to StreamYard next week because when I went to go cancel it because it was so expensive and I was trying out this restream, they said, oh, we'll give you a deal. We'll give you $200 off. So it almost came down to the same price. So I think I'm just going to go back to StreamYard, for the year. And there you go. There's all the Michael's in news you can handle in a minute. So tonight I'm pretty excited. I've joined a couple of groups outside of Facebook. There's a spiritual entrepreneur group that I'm a part of, started by Alicia Munyan, who has been a guest on the live stream. She's been a guest on Holding Space. It just seems like an amazing, energetic group of folks. So you guys met Eva Gypsy, Love, and there's probably some other people that are going to come in from that group. So I'm excited to welcome another person from that group. And I'm going to hope that I'm going to pronounce her name right. Okay. Because it's an interesting name, but welcome to the live stream of consciousness, Gabriela Hnizdo.
Oh my gosh, you got it right.
I did. Awesome. Excellent. You know what? How you doing? It's good to see you. I don't love this layout. I'm going to turn off the chat. I'll pop up your comments as you guys comment. If you want to say hello, say hello. If you have a question, feel free to type it in the comments, interact with us, let us know you're out there. Like I said, that tickles the algorithm. But welcome to the live stream of consciousness. How are you doing?
Oh my gosh, thank you so much, Michael. I'm doing fabulous. I feel like I just walked into a portal. I'm really excited to be
You
here.
have walked into a portal. We've both created this portal. What's up, Angelo? I do see you. That's
Hey.
that was your that's your all right. So just so you know here, and I know the comment is the top in the blue, the person is in the bottom. This is different. This is new for me. So welcome, Angelo. Good to see you. This is a portal. This is a place of intention that I've created, and it's really, really cool. I feel very blessed to be able to manifest this way. right? Like I basically manifested this conversation. What's happening? You and I are here. We're about to embark on this little adventure. So it's really cool. It's a good example of that. So I don't know if you're familiar with the show or not. I know that we've met outside the show, and we'll talk about that because that was a really great event that we met at. Uh,
Mhm.
but there is a kind of some prerequisite kind of get on the same page questions that we start with, and I love these questions because there's no wrong answers. and
Amazing.
and the first question is, what are we even talking about? What is consciousness?
Ooh, what is consciousness? Oh my gosh, that's such a big question, but also I love that too, right? Because every person that you have on here is going to have a different perspective of that, right?
Hmm.
Um, for me, how I understand consciousness is this like ever growing awareness. Like for me, I always like refer back to like the ever like unfolding like lotus flower kind of
Hmm.
thing.
Hmm. Hmm. I love that. Yeah.
Like I'm almost like seeing these like little petals like float off as you're seeing more and more. Or we could go to like the really funny like Shrek reference, like okay, we're like onions,
Yes.
like ogres are like onions, like and sometimes onions can stink, and then as you peel off the layers, it gets more
Hmm.
clear.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um,
Sure. Yeah.
but it's like what I mean also by awareness too is like it's almost like we're constantly waking up from a dream,
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
know.
Yeah. Oh, I do. I do. Yeah, no, that's great, and I like the little nuance you threw in there of this ever growing
Mhm.
awareness, right? I don't think that comes up often, that it's this ever expanding thing, right? And everybody has a different perspective on it, and that's kind of part of the answer, right? Is that your perspective is consciousness. It's how you're experiencing your own existence. That's kind of how I think about it. But yes, that's awesome. I love that answer. Um, and Angelo, who is also our audience is usually filled with lots of empaths and people who are kind of spiritually in tune. So Angelo's always getting kind of messages, and he says he feels that you are a career-minded individual. I believe, I believe that's what he's saying. I'm interpreting what he's saying.
I love
Um,
it.
but and he's usually right. He's usually on point. He's pretty intuitive. Um, but I took a look at what you were doing. I didn't know who you were when we met. So
Mhm.
let's talk about that first. When we met at an event Hardy Patel put together, Pranic
Yes.
Rebirth Journey, he calls it. And it's a combination of kind of like a breath work workshop and a sound healing and a few different kind of metaphysical techniques and practices put together
Mhm.
into what I saw, what I witnessed was a very, very powerful healing.
Mhm.
Um, and what it also seemed interesting to me was that the group of people that were there, most of the people weren't there for the first time. This was
Mhm.
something that they had experienced before, and obviously got something from it. So we're back to experience it some more. And let me tell you, as a videographer who is so grateful to be invited to document things like that. It
Mhm.
was so intense, and as an empath, I felt it. I felt everybody's not it, but a little bit of it, right? Because obviously everybody's personally going through some really intense stuff during this journey. And just so people might understand, when you do this breath work and when you're kind of going through these exercises, a lot of people have these involuntary reactions, almost like you would see at an evangelical church, right? Like casting demons out, where people start to go into convulsions, and it's very surreal. But like I said, it's very,
Mhm.
very powerful. It's very, very intense.
Yeah.
And I can see very healing, as I did all these interviews, and I do want to share it. I didn't talk to Hardy about sharing it, so I feel a little odd about sharing it. I will share it with you because you're in it.
Yeah.
Um, but but it's really, really. moving. You know what I mean? And I started to see a lot of like kind of ads for these kinds of ceremonies going on all over the place, which is so heartwarming, to know that people are opening up to this kind of stuff. Um,
Mm.
so that being said, I know that you're a very spiritual person. You're open to, a lot of things that aren't very mainstream. Let's just put it that way. And I took a look at what you're doing with your dream interpretations, I guess you can call them. And I love it. You're a creative professional like I am. You like to work visually like I do. But I love, I'm a photographer, so for
Mhm.
me innately, I was always told, oh my god, you captured a part of me that I don't see, and that was like the spiritual connection that I had of being in the flow. But you take it kind of a step further and really kind of capture the essence of a person's
Mhm.
dream,
Mhm.
their dream of what peace and happiness is, and like that ultimate state of being for them,
Yeah.
which is beautiful, and I want to share a couple of those. But before we get to all of that stuff, is the second question, is the second kind of show me where you're at, what page you're on kind of thing, and that is to ask you if you have a moment or a memory that you can share where
Mm.
you made that realization, like, okay, you're born into this world, you go to school, this certain stuff happens, but there's more to it than just that three-dimensional
Mm.
experience. Is there a moment you remember, or
I'm like literally getting goosebumps as you ask that question, and as I'm like integrating all of the shares and everything, right? As I was growing up, I noticed and started to pay attention to the fact that I really like to help people. And I was just like one of those people that was always very in tune to other people's feelings, and through my journey, had to learn how to get really in touch with my own. But the exact point that I remember, like literally waking up and deciding, what I wanted to do, like, what it felt like my purpose was, at
Mhm,
least for, where I'm at now,
mhm,
was I think it was like my second or third year of college. I went to FIT,
mhm,
and I remember I was like living in this really cruddy situation. It was like almost like an abusive sort of space where I was like, how did I get here?
mhm,
Like how the heck did I get here? I ended up getting into this space where I was feeling really anxious and like almost having like panic attacks, and it was almost like something was trying to awaken itself in me. And I remember the only thing that could calm me down was Mongolian throat singing.
oh,
Like that was the wildest thing. And I remember I had one of my first most intense meditations I'd ever had. And I started to connect my dreams deeper than I ever had, right? Um, and there was a moment in the middle of the night, I was listening to like Mongolian throat singing. These guys were like going like, oh, like whatever it is. And I felt something in my heart.
mhm, mhm, mhm,
I saw this visual of walking over a mountain, but then also like shining a light where other people were also following that light.
mhm, mhm.
And
Oh,
besides just myself holding that light, I saw other people in front of me also holding light.
mhm, mhm,
And at that point, I was like, I need to change right now. I love photography. I studied photography in
mhm, mhm,
college. I love cameras. I love this, but I also want to take it a step further.
mhm, mhm,
And from that point, I ended up like blowing my life up. I was practicing Kundalini yoga at that time, so of
mhm,
course, when you practice modalities where you're really oxygenating yourself,
mhm, mhm,
it's gonna happen. Something's gonna happen.
mhm, mhm, mhm,
And that ended up prompting a whole like 2 3 many year journey of me figuring out like I really want to combine the modalities of mindfulness meditation with photography, with video,
mhm,
because even the way that you capture people too, right? Like people don't necessarily realize how they actually look and how their light is.
mhm,
And
mhm,
um, I remember literally like studying in photography class. Photography, what does it mean? It's a study of light.
mhm.
So we are literally, when you and I go and we go out there with our cameras, we're holding space for people to express their light.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was kind of like a point. Yeah. So I went from, this whole point of being this anxious, like, oh my God, I don't know what's happening, to like, okay, we're gonna do this.
Yeah. Nice. Awesome. Awesome. I love that. Now, let's go back a little bit. You talk about Mongolian throat singing. Now, have I kind of have an idea what it is. It's almost like this layered guttural chanting, right? Where they produce, and tell me if I'm right. It's like they can produce multiple tones at once,
Yeah,
with their voice, right? Yeah,
yeah.
that's I have been totally fascinated by sound, as a frequency form.
Mhm.
Obviously, I think, we think of light and frequency, but I've just been totally fascinated with it. So it's interesting to me that you say you had an experience, like you were listening to a meditation and had an experience. Now, I can say I the first time I heard Tibetan bowls, or not Tibetan bowls, but crystal bowls, I was like, what is that sound? Where it's coming from inside of me? What's happening? I had an experience, but not like a vision, or some sort of revelation. Um, what was that like when you were listening to the Mongolian singing? What happened?
Oh my gosh. I love this connection to, like, right, like vibration and everything, and how sound can affect us. What I realized, right, and I love that you mentioned the specific part where the throat singing combines multiple different tones at once.
Hmm.
It's almost like a deeper effect of like binaural beats, but
Hmm.
it's natural. It's a human voice. So like when a human hears a human doing that, it's almost like taking how I'm remembering it. Like, I'm literally asking my body right now, how do you remember this?
Right.
Um, I remember it felt like my cells were flipping.
Hmm.
Like, it was almost like it was like the equivalent of new neural pathways forming, and
Wow.
being like, hey, this life that you're currently living is based on some past idea that you've been playing out over and over, and guess what? You can change it.
Hmm. 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 Wow.
And it was this innate safety
Hmm.
that I couldn't really even trace back to any specific ancestral kind of line, but it
Hmm.
felt deep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So, and you said your life changed, or things changed, your perspective changed.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
so previous to that, you said you were like a very anxious person, and
Mhm.
kind of, it's interesting. I'm always very careful in how I use my words when I'm talking about myself, and now I'm talking about somebody else. Um, I, would you say like you were struggling, right? You were
Oh,
struggling day to
on
day,
the
like
struggle bus. I
on
was
a struggle bus.
I was
Right. Yeah.
riding the bus. That was the struggle.
Okay. Okay. Good. Good. I didn't want to like, I didn't want to put any things out there. We're talking about the past universe, the struggle that's gone. Um, but
Yep.
but that's amazing. And I feel like people don't. I'm interpreting this right live. I'm processing what you're saying out loud, and I feel like you just kind of revealed that people don't understand what that means,
Mhm.
because it sounds like, oh my God, everything changed. Now, you're still you from
Mhm.
one moment to the next. You're still dealing with the same things, I think. And tell me if I'm wrong on this one. I think it's about perspective. I think what changed was your ability to process what was going on around you through
Yes.
perspective. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and we could even take that to, it was a change in consciousness,
Hmm.
to put it towards, the
Hmm.
theme
Hmm.
of this live stream, right? It's like,
Hmm.
anytime like, I'm going to speak for myself at least. Anytime I have allowed for something to enter, my space, and just say, "Hey, show me the medicine." Show me the medicine that I have. Um some kind of changed perspective for Matt, or changed awareness
Mhm.
has arisen from that. And it was like I could be riding the struggle bus one moment, but then as soon as I see this changed perspective, it could literally be the exact opposite. Or, like say I'm connected to the shadow side of it or the dark
Mhm.
side of it, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Um, it's almost like immediately it's like, hey, but because you have experienced this, its opposite is also true.
Right.
So which one are you gonna choose, the blue pill or the red pill for
Right. 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 Right.
so it's
Totally.
matrix kind
Totally. Yeah.
of.
Yeah. And I guess what I'm saying too is what, as far as what people expect, right, and how they expect these changes to affect them. It's not like you weren't on the struggle bus anymore.
Right.
It's just that you were now comfortable in your seat,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
It was like, okay, I'm on the struggle bus, so
Mhm.
I'm not gonna fight it.
Right.
I'm just gonna ride it out, and I'm gonna be comfortable in the struggle. Because I know for me, in the last year, I think, or maybe 2 years, I said some things out loud, and I was like, well, how do I come to these realizations? What does this mean? And that was the idea of enjoying adversity, right?
Mhm.
And an example I have is I was invited to speak at a like a networking night about this very thing, right? Creating a broadcast for yourself, how easy it is, and how it allows you to express your brand and your message, whatever that might be.
Right.
Um, and right as we were supposed to start talking, the PA died. So the microphone and the speaker just died. And I was speaking with my girlfriend Janice, she goes as the quiet healer because she's very, very introverted.
Mhm.
And she was going to speak first. And I knew that there was no way she was going to be able to speak without the PA system. But I felt like I could. I felt like, you know what, it was in a small room. I felt like I could emote, like I felt, and I just, something grabbed a hold of me, you know what I mean? And I just rode that adversity, and it felt so good, even though afterwards I heard, like, there was a bunch of people who couldn't hear me on this side, and I was turning around a lot, so some people heard some stuff. Whatever it was, it doesn't matter, because for me, I navigated that moment, and
Mhm.
and in a perspective that I felt triumphant with and
Mhm.
comfortable with, and not, fearful and anxious and upset,
Wow.
and I feel like that's, you know that's that's kind of what you're talking about, right? When you make these realizations, like, things are different, like, you're still the same person, but now you're handling things different. You're
Yes.
you know
Yeah. And I love how you said that too, because that's reminding me of like a thing that I've learned throughout a lot of like studies and from different teachers that I've had is whatever situation you're given, there's magic in using exactly what you have in the room. Where
Mhm,
even if it's only your body, that's all
mhm,
you got.
mhm,
That's where true magic lies. Is like, okay, say the mic dies, say I don't know, computer turns off, you only got a phone,
right.
whatever it is. If you have it, use it,
Mhm,
and from that place, you can learn information on how to do it better,
mhm,
on so many different things besides what I'm just saying. But it can like, you can get a lot from that too,
mhm, mhm.
as long as you're just showing up.
Right, right. It's funny you said that, because that's exactly what I was thinking about. That was a catchphrase, right, that someone said to me once, and those are the kinds of things too. Like, someone can say a phrase like that to you, and all of a sudden it has this whole new meaning. You're like, oh my God, just show up. That means all I
Mhm.
need to do is be there and be myself, and just contribute, just exactly how you described it. Contribute whatever it is that I have to the situation.
Exactly.
And that is another great realization. And so you said, I think you said this was the first thing you said, about consciousness being this ever growing thing. So, like, for you, your consciousness in these moments is growing. It's growing into these
Mhm.
bigger states and higher awarenesses of itself, and
Mhm.
how to navigate existence, specifically the 3D. I feel like
Mhm.
I feel like I feel like the 3D is really the only dimension that has to be navigated. I feel like all the other dimensions just happen. Yeah. You know, part of the challenge of the 3D is like, oh, you got to figure out how to navigate this.
Yep.
Uh, when the truth is, you really don't. But
Yeah, we
but
think we have to navigate it, right?
that's the secret. A lot of people don't know. I love that. I love that these philosophies that make me happy and make the most sense to me are so like circular and puzzling, right? Like the only way to control anything is to let go of control completely, right? It's like,
Oh my
what
god.
does that mean? And like it makes so much sense, but what the hell does it mean? Um,
Right, right. It reminds me of this song, like for I think for about like 2 years straight. Every now and then, I'd have Spotify play this one song that's just like, I release control
oh, I
and
know that song.
surrender.
Yeah, 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 yeah. That's a
And
great
for a
one.
while, I'd just be like, I release control. Like I would want to just like throw things, and until I was like, all right, it's just another
And
reminder.
and you know what? I know a few people who put that song on exactly for that reason. It's got this energetic mantra, right? That's happening that really allows you, like, if you can focus in on that vibe,
Mhm.
which I think the song allows you to do just by being in that form, right? Just by being in the form of a song. It's like, oh, all I got to do is put it on, right? And there you go. Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. Phenomenal. Okay, so and did you go to school? You said, were you studying art and photography and
Yes, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So I went to the Fashion Institute of
right,
Technology.
FIT, right? That's what you said. Yeah.
And yeah, I got my bachelor's in photography and related media, so that included
Yeah.
everything: art, video, cinematography, all that
Nice.
stuff. So that was really fun.
Awesome. Yeah, I went to Hartford Art School, so I love
Nice.
I love the variety. It was art school is a very interesting experience to me, and I'm sure it was to you too, because there's so many there's so many different personalities there, right? And at art school, there's some really highly talented, very competitive people, and I think if you're sensitive and competitive, you could get intimidated really easily and things like that. But I think part of the lesson for me was just to find the power in who I was, right? And not worry about who anybody else was,
Mhm.
and find the joy in who they were, and appreciate the artwork that they were doing, and not, like, I mean, again, those are the simple lessons I think that allow you to grow into a much more peaceful existence, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I remember even art school being like one of the first places I started practicing meditation because they had like free classes.
Wow.
Like it's like one of those places where it's like you said, right? Like we're getting to learn our expression, how to actually express it, and then also allow the rest of the our peers to go ahead and do the same.
Yeah, 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 totally. It's interesting. I didn't get into meditation and stuff until I was probably much older than college. I certainly, after kind of doing meditation and making realizations and doing all whatever, kind of going down this path, I can certainly look back at my life and see what aspects were spiritual, right? Like, I mean, playing in music, playing bands, from the time I was 20, and being, oh wow, I'm in that room channeling, with a bunch of other people, like, and understanding what was happening kind of in hindsight, and then just being like, wow. And you can be grateful, right? You're like, wow, I'm so grateful I was able to get into a flow state without even knowing it. You know what I mean? It was like,
Yeah,
yeah.
I love that you actually just spoke about that, right? Like this almost like unknown state of channeling and like flow
Mhm.
state, because like that's bringing me back to like so many like very like spiritual projects that like were
Mhm.
unbeknownst to me, like very like
Mm.
like I went ahead after college and studied like tantra and all kinds of different things. And there's this idea of like when you set a container, and by container I mean like a set space. So like,
Mhm.
okay, I'm going to do this photo shoot from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. or something like that, where I'm going to go ahead and work with these people on developing a creative idea for 20 minutes. That allows actually the automatic state of flow and channeling
Wow.
through. And I
Brilliant.
didn't
Yeah.
realize this until actually the other day. I was on the phone with someone I'm collaborating with on film. We were writing out like a voiceover for a script, and like I felt all my cells like we were like, okay, we have an hour. What are we gonna do in this hour?
Love that.
And it was like we were channeling like ancestral wisdom. We are like, oh my
I
god,
love that.
now this is
I
coming
love
full
that.
circle.
That's
You
so
know?
cool. And you're actually reminding me, or kind of bringing to the surface, like it's really that simple. And I think that because of the way things are set up, right? Without getting too like whatever conspiracy theory of the words, without talking about that kind of stuff, I think that we're kind of removed from these simple kind of understandings about things, and it's just so great to be able to practice them and allow them to um what's the word I'm looking for? I guess I certainly feel like my existence is much easier than it was as I learn these little secrets, unlock these secrets. And by no means am I like super wealthy, right? Or any of these things that are kind of I guess presented to us as success, right? Like I feel very successful in so many ways because I see my day to day as a lot less of a struggle that I see most people around me. You know what I mean? So I'm just grateful for that, right? And that makes me rich, right? It's not money, it's like it's this peace of mind, right? And
Wow.
I think that that's really an
Wow.
important thing to remind yourself. So I guess what I'm saying is you're kind of reminding me that how simple it is. I guess
Mhm.
that's the best way to say it. To just
Absolutely.
kind of put yourself in the state that you want to be in. And I think as you do that, you get to the next phase, which is like you're talking about, which is helping people. And it's like just by being who you are, people around you start to be like, oh, I want some of that. Like, how are you so peaceful? How are you smiling all the time? And it's like, because I'm happy. You know what I mean? And it's like, what do you mean? They don't understand. How could you be happy, right? And it's like, well, it's a choice. And then they're like, what do you mean it's a choice? And it's like, so, listen, we have ways to go. I mean, thank God. I think we also have a very supportive spiritual community, where like-minded people seem to be kind of flocking and gathering and able to do things like this show. I mean, I honestly, and I talk about this all the time, I'm a creative producer. I like to make stuff. I don't like to be on camera and this, but it just kind of happened by accident. And it's so freeing. I don't know, for me, it's a connection, it's a flow. It's like
Yes.
having grown up not really being social and not really loving people, and now loving, like I was looking forward to this. Like, now I get to know somebody who I actually saw go through that pranic birth journey that we were talking about. Like, wow, I want to get to know who that person is. um
Amazing.
it is amazing. And speaking of that, I want to get into some of the stuff you're doing now. I want to share a couple of your dream things that you sent me some links to.
Sure.
But let's talk about that pranic rebirth journey, because I know you are specifically one of the people, like probably out of, let's say, 10 or 12 people, like 3 or 4
Mhm.
had very intense experiences, and you are one of the people that I witnessed having a very intense experience. Do you want to share anything about that experience and what it does for you, and maybe you could tell people what happened, and if you remember? I don't even know if you remember consciously
Oh,
what was
wow.
happening.
No, I would absolutely love to share, and I'm like really grateful that you asked too, because just before I go ahead and share, I always remember like, wow, I'm like when I met you, I was like, oh, that's so cool. This guy, he's here with his camera, photographing this whole thing, and it just reminded me of like what I do and everything. So it's
Hmm.
just,
Hmm.
and I always remember one thing. That you said was that when we cry, it's a way of manifestation. Like it's
Hmm.
how we manifest, love or lives and stuff like that.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
And that was really part of a really beautiful integration. process for me too,
Awesome.
because it's not just letting go, right? So, anywho, coming back to the focus, that pranic rebirth journey was that was another layer, right? So I had actually before that already done one rebirth journey, but that one I was able to go like just another level deeper. Um, and it's funny because all of them are so magical, right? Like because everyone is being invited to be so present with their discomforts, with their bodies, with their breathing. I was there with my partner next to me,
Mhm,
and another being who was going through an extremely intense, experience next to me.
mhm.
And I remember just being in a room where obviously, there were some incredible people holding space and encouraging feelings and emotions. But I just remember being able to hear all of the sounds, all of the breath, the screaming, the crying, and everything. I could almost feel like my whole body was almost like being invited to feel my own version of what was coming up, right? So, say somebody was screaming, it would remind me of a moment where, say, like there were fights, in childhood between
Mhm,
parents and
mhm,
stuff
mhm.
like that. And were moments where I just wanted to be loud and scream and express
Wow.
myself and just, like step into my own, you know, power, step into
Wow.
my own ability to be like, look, I get to speak right now. Like my voice matters. There's something that I want to share there, and something that I really specifically remember from that particular journey itself. I'm like getting goosebumps, and like my heart's like swooping
Yeah.
itself
Yeah,
over.
me too. Yeah.
Was like this moment where I was like, Gabby, just walk through the door. Just it's okay. Like
Mhm, mhm,
just communicate.
mhm, 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 mhm.
Because that was something for the longest time. I felt like my throat had gone through many layers of just taking stuff off and feeling like I couldn't speak, I couldn't express. And
Mhm.
it's funny because what is it? When was that pranic rebirth journey? That was like
A couple of months ago, yeah.
months ago. Like yeah,
Mm.
like last year a little bit, and
Yeah.
and I'm just like integrating since that moment, right? Where I was able to walk through that door and really get in touch with like my inner lion or inner confidence and stuff like that. And all the reasons why I wasn't feeling confident
Mm.
um,
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
started to actually pour into my life. It was like, hey, so
Wow.
what are you doing? How are you surrounding yourself? Like what environments are you in? Who are you surrounding yourself with?
Mhm,
What
mhm,
kind of
mhm, mhm.
conversations are you even having
Right?
or not having that are making you feel like this?
Mhm, mhm.
So it was
Wow.
like, yeah, like a lot of like huge awakenings came up that night, and I really feel like up until this moment, um, it gave me this door or portal, so to say, um, to step into like this person that I'm showing up as today. Like
Mhm.
literally just like this past month, I had a friend just be like, "Hey, do you want to like co-direct a film with me?" I had
Wow, nice.
like I've been directing all my own stuff, but for somebody to like show up and be like, "Hey, come, like
Let's
do
share our energy and put it into something. Yeah, yeah.
right." And like, it's almost like that pranic rebirth journey was like
Yeah.
showing up again in the last week. Like, hey, here's all the reasons why you would avoid all
Wow.
things. So
That's so
I'm really
great.
grateful that you asked that question.
That's so great. And you actually, and this is why I love doing this, right? Because you're making me think we're planting seeds in each other's head, right? And thoughts. And you brought up something that I never really even thought of. And I am a pretty staunch believer in the one, right? That consciousness is one and we are all individual facets of it, and that. And you talked about this aspect of kind of tuning into the sounds of somebody else crying, right? And what that might have been carrying with it, right? Because it was obviously for that person carrying some sort of experience, right? But on such an energetic freaking level, like you're talking about cosmic energy floating through the room that you are just like, oh look, there it goes, I'm going to grab onto it and experience it with that collective, whatever that might be at that moment, right? However many souls are tuning into that energy, and in the room it might have been you and that other person, but for me, now that you're saying it that way, I'm like, well, that energy is existing everywhere, and there are people who are probably at that very moment tuned into that very energy, you know what I mean? And because you said you tuned into the screaming, I'm going to call it energy, right? You tuned into that
Mhm.
energy and dialed yourself into what that meant for you, what that
Absolutely.
energy brought up for you, right? And I think that that's really important, and I think that, oh, wow, so interesting, because one wow, one of the things I walked away with, and I don't, and I'm getting emotional now. I
Mm.
don't I don't do a lot of that stuff. I witness a lot of that stuff. I'm certainly aware of it, and I do the things that I'm drawn to, right? If I'm like, "Ooh, I want to try that," I'll do it. But the thing that I walked away with, and it is making me emotional and well up a little bit right now, is like, wow, the world needs so much healing. I didn't look at it like, look at that person and they must have went through something bad and they need healing. I didn't feel that. I felt like, wow, look at how much healing that the world needs. Look at how much energy of this, like this type of energy that there is just flowing through everybody. I think it flows through everybody. And wow, that's really powerful, man. I'm getting chilled just
I
thinking
know.
about it.
I feel
Yeah.
that right here too, like,
Yeah.
and
That's amazing.
I'm
Wow.
almost like I want to reflect that too, right? Because going off the idea of the one, right? And how you're saying, yeah, the world needs so much healing. It's almost like, when people gather like that and they decide, okay, I'm going to go through this journey, whether you're going through it, you're witnessing it, you're just part of it in one way or another.
Mhm,
That is a whole mirror of the entire planet
mhm.
and maybe even beyond.
Absolutely.
So it's like even just the relief that was felt afterwards, some of that relief was
Mhm.
probably felt somewhere else.
Yes. A
Somehow.
million a
Some
million percent, a million percent. And I always say that, I have friends who are psychic mediums and all of these things, and I talk about my psychic fetish, right? I don't go and, oh, I want to go see a psychic. I don't do that myself, but
mhm.
I love being around it because I feel it, and I'm a witness, like you
Yeah.
just said, to that energy, to that exchange, to that healing, and it's always been to me, and I always say this to like Christopher Allen, who's my friend. I'm always like, man, you must have gotten so much healing from that healing that you just gave. You know what I mean? Because it is a universal energy, right? And wow, amazing. Really, really amazing stuff. And the quiet healer is out there. Hello, quiet healer. Good to see you. And Helen responded earlier when we were talking about channeling. I never realized I'm channeling until after the fact. And it's, it's true, but you could still have gratitude and be like, wow, I was channeling. Look at that. I connected to that source energy and whatever. And I'm starting to feel like, again, as human beings, our purpose is creators. We're here to create whatever that might be: art, visual creation, audio creation, writing, you know what I mean? Just intellect, like massage therapy, like just touch, like all of that is creation to me. And I feel like that's what we're here for. And for me, it's like, not to go again into that conspiracy theory kind of avenue about life, because I don't really subscribe to that. But for me, it was like the Industrial Revolution, right? When it was like a turn into, okay, this is how life is going to be. You're going to go to job. This is what you got to do. Like, I just think that it was designed to take us away from everything that we're talking about right now, which is crazy if you think about it growing up, how, even like your parents, the people who love you, they want the most for you, and not all parents are like this, but the stereotype is, oh, don't be an artist or a musician because there's no money in it. How are you going to survive? Don't be a poet. What do you want to be a poet? How silly is that? You know what I mean? And meanwhile, like, that's one of the most beautiful things you could be.
Right,
You know
right.
what I mean? Because think about it, a poet or a musician or an artist, think about how many people they get to touch with the energy that they expressed, however they expressed it.
Exactly. Oh my God.
Mhm.
I'm loving this, and I'm loving that you're bringing up this idea of creativity, right? Like, because it's like, all of us create, right? Like,
Yeah.
if you think about even just in the idea of like the typical, like very popular belief in like manifestation, all kinds of stuff like that. It's like
Hmm.
we are always creating, right? I mean, you can create a sentence, you can create breath,
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
can create the way
Yeah.
that you walk, your outfit, the way you brush your teeth,
Yeah.
like the way
Totally.
you decide to go ahead and like talk to somebody. And your life can literally be living art
Yep.
or whatever the heck else, if you don't
Right.
want to create that for whatever reason.
Yep.
And yeah, no, it's like that's something that I really want to help people with too, is realize like you are all artists,
Hmm.
and we all have this innate, super creative, free flowing energy,
Yeah.
that's always available to us. Like, I don't know if you've ever felt that moment where, okay, maybe you were like tired and kind of like, man, feeling a little low. And then all of
Mhm.
a sudden, a creative idea comes up and you're like, it feels
Yeah.
like you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You're like, okay, you know what? I am gonna get up, and I just need to articulate this because it's here. It's energizing me. Yeah. Oh, I've definitely felt that for
Yep.
sure. I love that. I crave that. Yeah.
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 Yeah, it is unfortunate, but I think, again, thankfully, there's a spiritual community out there of people who, are kind of looking to change those norms.
Um,
And even the stuff that is going on, that, the unmentionable. I don't. It's silly to even say that, but I don't like to bring that energy into this space, right? But all of that stuff that's going on, I believe that all has a role, right? It's all a part of unfolding this picture into, you know a bigger picture.
yeah.
And I think that what's on the other side of the discomfort of unfolding it, or whatever it might feel like, is a beautiful picture. And I think
Yeah.
that, we're all headed there. And I think, the spiritual community is a little microcosm of that, right? You can find pockets of people in the spiritual community who are authentically happy and living life, regardless of what their financial status is. Just have these amazing lives that people are envious of, because they're just there, they're just connected. um
Mhm.
you know and and
Uh,
it's a good time to be alive, I think. you
oh
know
yeah.
uh, we there's a lot of talk about, this shift in humanity and all. It's difficult to navigate, right? Because there's all of these different kinds of languages and way of describing it. But I think that, for me, it's always been this way. It's like, I see it all as the same thing, and that's where this actually came from. I have friends who are psychic mediums. I have friends who read Akashic records. I have astrologer friends. And to me, it's like, it's just like different languages, right? They're all humans, but they're speaking different languages. And so, we're all connected. And we're all in this together. And I think the more that we realize that, and support each other, the better it's going to get. And I do see this as my effort towards that, right?
I
Just to
love
kind of host a little party, me and you and Helen and the Quiet Healer and Angelo, just hanging out and having a conversation.
I love that
That's
so
awesome.
much.
So
Yeah.
so let's show people what you do, because I'm excited. I have these links all queued up.
Yeah.
Tell us what I was looking at a lot of things. What do you call this specifically? I'm gonna.
So these are actually called dream reflection sessions. So where I even got any of that from, right, is dream. Like, what does that even mean to anybody, right? That's going to mean something different to everyone.
Mhm.
But innately, it's having to do with tapping into your dreams, your creative dreams, even just being able to plant the seed, right? Because sometimes during a session, somebody might just open up a little bit, right?
Mhm.
Why I say reflection is because I'm documenting people's experiences of expressing themselves with my camera, and my camera has a mirror. It's basically I'm just the mirror
I'm holding the mirror and it's
You.
you that's being reflected. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Exactly.
love
And
that. I love that.
yeah, that's pretty much what that is. So, they tend to be about like 2 to 3 hour sessions where, I go ahead and we start with a conversation and just get the person who's going to be held really grounded.
Hmm.
They get to talk about what they're going through,
Hmm.
um, any concerns. Maybe we'll pull some cards or play some music or, things like that to get them really comfortable.
Hmm.
And at that point, once they're like, okay, I feel like I have my intention set, like I remember somebody's was to allow themselves to merge with their business self,
Hmm.
like, like to allow that to like come up and see what that meant in their life, like how they could integrate their current life with that. And at that point, I would guide them through a little bit of like a meditative practice so that
Hmm.
they could imagine like bringing, almost like opening the crown of their head and like bring that back into your body, because now your body is safe, your body feels grounded,
Hmm.
and then that part of yourself can come into the present moment.
Express itself. Yeah.
Right. And then once they feel like totally there and they're ready, my big thing is like when I'm photographing somebody, consent is everything. And especially when they're in a vulnerable state. Um, Once they say, all right, go time, that's when I go ahead and I'm like, all right, let's start to move. And so, like, some people will start dancing, some people will just start moving around a room, they'll
Hmm.
start getting certain props or, paint supplies or, start talking to plants, whatever. It could be anything.
Hmm.
Um, that's when I start to like go ahead and like actually document through video and photo.
Hmm. Hmm.
And we're just playing at that point. We're just like letting
Right.
full inner child, inner
Flow
teenager
state. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
have fun.
Yeah.
And then by the time, it's almost time to wrap up, it's funny, like almost every time everybody just kind of like is like, okay, I'm ready. Like let's come
And
back
you're
to
like, oh, we did it. We already did it. Yeah.
so it's that, and
Yeah.
it's not just the session. You're gonna see the end result of the session,
Right. Right.
both sessions. But the funny thing that I noticed is that it actually creates a lot of shadow work, because when now you have all this proof of like how amazing and incredible you can be. Now the
Hmm.
mind is going to go ahead and fire up all of these thought patterns,
Hmm.
like self judgments or things, or
Right.
even be positive too,
Right.
things that
Sure.
you
Sure.
never realized about yourself come out, and you're like, oh wow, this is exciting. So
One. Sure.
a
Sure.
whole thing, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so like I said, as a photographer, it was always great to show someone photos that I took of them and then to be like, oh my God, I never saw myself this way. But this is a whole other level, right? You're really kind of showing somebody, kind of like you said, like now they're kind of like, oh, wait a second. Here it is. Here's proof of my dreams, right?
Mhm.
Why am I doubting them? Why am I not this person I'm seeing in the video, right? Almost, and not,
Yeah.
I'm sure that it's different for some people are, I'm sure that, some people are able to get into it in a different way and it means different things. But, I would say, yeah, like for most people, it's really a healing thing and something that we don't think about on a day-to-day basis. We're so caught up in that hamster wheel, getting on the hamster wheel and getting through the day to the next one, that we don't take that time to really reflect on what's inside.
Yeah.
So okay, so I want to just bring this back up here. I'm going to play it, and let's watch Tariq's dream reflection session.
Mhm. Yeah, this one's pretty incredible.
Wow. And
Yeah,
is that flute producing two tones at the same time?
it's a duotone flute. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
this one was pretty wild, right? Like we've seen a little bit already, right? Because he's really connected to birds and to flutes, and there was a point where like 100 birds flew into the scene. Like, and
Wow.
once we stepped into the container, it was wild.
And was this his space or is this?
So it's actually at the Earth Temple in Port Jefferson. It's a friend's space, and then if anyone knows Pirates Cove, also in Port Jefferson, we went to these
Oh,
crazy
it's beautiful.
campings. Yeah, it is so magical to see and like watch.
Yeah, it's really captured really nicely.
Yeah, and the funniest thing is that this is my partner too. So like it was a really interesting space of like being like I'm gonna hold space now. You know, like
Right,
our,
right.
you know.
It's awesome. So it's got to be interesting for you to watch it again.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
It's really beautiful.
This part was really funny because I was actually submerging my boots in the water, but I was like, I don't care. This is so magical, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, those are the best moments.
Yep.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Wow, beautiful.
Yeah.
Nice. It's really interesting. I've been talking about this a lot lately too. The similarity between like therapy and spirituality, right? And it's healing is what it's about. It's really just kind of allowing things that are trapped, you know, to be free, just
Yeah.
to allow you to move on. I think that's part of that conditioning, right? Oh, look at
Yep.
that.
That's the part with the birds. This was
Yeah.
I had chills.
I could imagine. Yeah. Look at
Yeah.
that. And
Like
look at him. He's like, he's
yeah.
there. He's just like, yes. So
Yeah, all the birds, always, always.
I love what he's doing there. Like as if he's like kind of,
Anyways,
energetically kind of like waving them in and guiding them in and
yep,
safely landing them. Like I love it.
yep. Yeah, and just like playing, you know, it's like just to see people like really just like be
Smile.
in this free space.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, just that last scene right there with that smile.
Yeah.
As a photographer, it's like it's incredible to see how somebody lights up when they smile. Like
Mhm.
how their energy totally changes.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, and it's wild being there in person, like because okay, obviously I'm holding the camera, I'm really
Mhm.
focused on getting the shots, but that there's very specific conditions that happen. I almost get this like intuitive thing. You see where I have the prism up to the lens, where I'm like, no, I need to do it. I need to capture this bird like that.
Yeah, and Helen says amazing vision.
And what
Yeah,
that is,
really, really good. And I can imagine it must be so nice to
Mhm.
do that, go through this with you, right? A session of a conversation and kind of being this free, and then to get this back as a result, like you were saying, like it's just like, wow, look at this, you know, awesome.
Yeah.
He's a reader. Or is that something you brought to the table?
This was something that we brought to the table. Basically, during the sessions, we'll kind of bring any tools like that either of us feel called to have in the room,
Right.
just as like a little fun kind of way to play, tap into the messages a little bit deeper.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, so here it was like talking about like having like a shamanic death, and like it was just like really interesting because after that it was like a lot of that came out.
Right.
Really cool to be able to witness and
Yeah.
to create it.
Very, very cool. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful work.
Yeah.
I love the idea. I don't think I've seen that specifically. I mean, I've seen people kind of playing with dreams as a avenue, to connect with people. But this is a nice twist to it that I like because I'm a visual artist.
Yeah.
Excuse me one second. I've just gotta.
Totally fine. Yeah, it's something really really fun because I've been doing research. A lot of other artists out there. I've seen a couple other people do something like it with photography, but I hadn't seen anybody do anything with video.
Right.
And oftentimes, for me, I grew up as a dancer. I love film.
Hmm.
Um, I've seen films impact people in such a strong way
Hmm.
that, well, what if people were able to see themselves in motion?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a deeper layer almost that people can receive when you have a combination of visual, sound, like it's a little bit more sensory.
Hmm. Yeah. Absolutely. No, I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Um, and Angelo says, I saw a video on YouTube. A man plays the flute in the wilderness, and the plants and the trees stay still.
Oh my God. So
Wow, that's interesting.
I
Yeah,
love that.
I love that too. And I have a friend who's been on the show a couple of times, Brian Lar, who's I call him, he's an actual wizard. He's actually like studied and under different mentors, and he does this what does he call it? Effect. He calls it an effect, right? Where he has a rod, and he puts a rod on a dome, so it's balanced, and then he'll actually get the thing spinning, just kind of with his mind.
Whoa.
And and it's pretty incredible to see, and it's a pretty interesting practice. But now I've been seeing actually like videos of that popping up, where people have stuff set up on a table and they're just energetically moving it around. And I feel like, there's probably a portion of that that's fake and for likes, but there's a part of me that's like, okay, this is happening. Like people are tapping into these abilities, and and it's not fake. It's a possibility, right? Well, that was something else, by the way. I love talking to you because you're so receptive to the way I like to express myself. But you were talking about, you said consciousness is like ever growing, right? And I had come up with this idea that, they talk about the universe is expanding. The universe is always expanding, right? And that's could be because the universe is consciousness, right? Um, but I came up with the thought that every thought that you have actually expands the universe, because even though the thought isn't necessarily physical, it wasn't there before, and now you've created that thought. And if you believe in non-physical realms, well, that thought is existing somewhere in whatever form it's existing in, right? And
Whoa.
you've just expanded the universe. um
Whoa. I feel like my universe just got expanded hearing that.
oh, that's awesome. I love that. See, I knew there was a reason for me to keep that concept in my head and express it, because there will be people that will hear it and be like, "Oh, I just grew. I just expanded. Nice, thank you."
Okay.
I love talking to people where like I can feel these seeds like hitting my brain, like they haven't germinated. I don't know what they mean, but I feel them. I'm like, "Ooh, you just said something that I know is going to sprout," and I'm going to be like, "Whoa, look at that."
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. Sometimes I don't know if you ever noticed this, like, oftentimes it'll be up here, and then sometimes it'll be in like random places, like, I don't know, my left toe. Like, like I'll feel like, oh wow, like something will wiggle and want to dance. It's great.
Totally, totally. Helen says, "I always believe my thoughts aren't mine, aren't just mine, no matter how tangled." And that's a good point too, right? Because I'm saying, oh, you thought of something and you expanded the universe, but some of those thoughts, I believe, are you've tapped into that energy that's floating through the universe. That thought exists already, and you've just kind of focused in on it,
Mhm.
which I think is also a part of it. But I do think we generate new thoughts
Mhm.
as well.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
Gabrielle, you are. so awesome to talk to. It was really awesome to meet you. And I know we didn't talk then, but I did capture you and I did edit you, so I feel a little bit more connected because I've gone through that experience with you. And I will send that link to you so you can take a look at that.
Amazing. I'm excited
As,
to check it
as
out.
yeah, but thank you so much for coming and sharing your thoughts, and a little piece of who you are, your little puzzle piece, so that we can put this puzzle together and see what this damn big picture looks like finally.
Oh my
Um,
God, of course. It's such a pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
very cool. All right, I'm going to put you in the green room. I'm going to say goodbye to everybody. Do you have any salutations, greetings, wisdom, anything to say to my audience before I tuck you in the back there?
Ooh, I'm gonna put both my feet on the ground and tap in. And first off, just say thank you, thank you, thank you. Um, and just remember that you create what your life is down to the very breath that you take. It starts. Any change starts with the way that you breathe, and you can always change.
Mhm. Love it. Awesome. Awesome. And that, I think that's a great testament to breath work itself, because, if you're doing an exercise where you're breathing in slowly and intentionally versus doing very quick breaths, there's different energy associated with that. And if you guys are interested in that stuff, definitely check out Hardy's class. Oh, and I didn't get to put this up, and sometimes I'm silly and I forget, but I did want to put this up, which is Gabrielle's YouTube channel, so that you can check out some more of these dream videos. I know you also have some videos with just personal thoughts and experiences and wisdom. And again, that's what we're here for. We're here to kind of share our perspective with each other so that we can get that bigger perspective, right? I can't have your perspective, but you can share it with me, and we can share in that energy and understand it together. So
I
thank
love
you.
that.
Yeah,
I love that. That reminds me of my favorite quote, which is "Happiness is only real when shared," from Chris McCandless.
I
So
love it. I love it.
yeah,
Awesome.
thank you so much, Michael. Appreciate
Yes.
everything.
Thank you. Thank you. And we'll see you again here soon, I'm sure. I know I'll see you again soon, I'm sure. All right.
Definitely.
Hang out in the green room for a minute. Let me say good night, and I'll talk to you soon. Wow, folks. We did it again. Another intentional hour on a Thursday night, um, spreading energetic love, energetic vibes, energetic intentions of connecting. Thank you guys so much for being here. As always, Helen, I'm so glad you were here. Thank you, Gabriela. Um, yes, thank you, Gabriela, for being here as well. It was definitely nice to talk to you. Hopefully, Hardy will get a chance to kind of review the video and we can finish it, because I do think it's a great testament to this breathwork journey that he's put together. I know he's out traveling right now, so he's been a bit busy, so it may not be a priority to get those breathwork journeys going here in the States, but eventually he will. And like I said, I've been seeing it all over the place. So if it sounds like something interesting to you, just you Google breathwork. Breathwork it's like the simplest modality, I think, that you can practice, because it doesn't cost anything. Well, I guess unless you're being guided, you might have to pay a guide. But there's no equipment, you know what I mean? There's nothing to do other than focus on your breath. And let's say you do go to a guided session. Once you've experienced it, you've kind of got that insight to, oh, I can do this by myself. I can figure this out. Breathwork is highly, highly recommended. One of the easiest things that you can do for yourself, and for the collective, now that I think about it. Anyway, I don't know who I've got next week. I've been kind of really busy trying to make ends meet and running around from job to job now that I'm not working at the studio. So I don't know who I've got on holding space on Tuesday, or I don't know who I've got next week on Thursday. I don't think. Let's see. Tuesday. Nope. It's going to be random, folks, but I guarantee it's going to be awesome. This is the only podcast that I've ever seen that offers you a 100% money back guarantee. If you don't like what you saw tonight, just write me and I'll send you your money back. Anyway, folks, thanks for being here. I'll talk to you guys next week. Peace.
Gotta ask yourself whether reality is a dream or you a dream reality.